let's dive right on in and start talking about the show that's coming up here not that long from now. August 30th here in Eau Claire at the Sonnentag with LA Guns. Remind me, and I should have looked at like other performances over the decades, but have you been to Western Wisconsin, Eau Claire before?
I'm not sure about Eau Claire. We've definitely been a lot of places in Wisconsin, but I'm not sure. I definitely haven't played Sonnentag. So we're looking forward to that. I hear it's a really cool venue.
Yeah. It's a nice arena. They just built it. It's for UW Eau Claire mainly, Division III school, but it's gotten a lot of raves from some of the other schools in our conference here in Wisconsin. They're going, wow, for Division III school, this is what you got now for basketball and indoor football practice and volleyball and everything. But Bob Dylan was here a few months ago, which surprised a lot of us. Like, Bob Dylan's coming to Eau Claire? What? But he came and put on a great show in that same place you guys are going to be. Yeah. So I think you'll enjoy it.
I know Cinderella has played Eau Claire. I'm not sure if the solo band, Keifer band, has played up there yet, or we may have played near there. But I know I played there before. I think it was with Cinderella. Okay.
I know Rockfest is the big festival up nearby as well, and so many bands have come through there. So we've done
that one. That one was Cinderella.
That makes sense. Yeah. Rockfest is really huge in our building as well because we got one of our sister stations is our main rock station. They're up there all the time for that. So yeah, you'll like the place when you come back here. The tour I see is the dates are about to get going. So final prep, how is everything going before you officially start the performances?
Good. We're into rehearsals and pre-production and getting, all the gears tuned up here and things are going great. We're excited to get back out. We took a little time off this year. We ended our tour last year at the end of August, and we're picking up roughly about 1 year later. So, because we've toured with the solo band pretty much nonstop, with the exception of the pandemic years, since 2013 when I released the first solo record, The Way Life Goes. So, we were ready to take a little bit of breather from the road, so that's been nice. And it's kind of exciting to be going back out. I think it's going to feel really fresh, and we're ready to rock.
So when you take a break from going on the road, knowing that, like in a case like yours, having a bunch of hit singles, you're going to play, fans are going to expect it, et cetera, et cetera. How do you take a different approach in any way? Shed light on it at all, or maybe there's not really much of one at all outside of maybe band members come in and out, how that goes. How does the planning process for getting ready for another round of tour dates go in your particular case?
Well, for me personally, I have to stay on top of it's a decades-long story. I won't go into it, but it's well known that I had a vocal paresis of my left vocal cord. So whether we're on the road or not, I'm doing the training to keep that left vocal cord strong. It's a couple hours a day of vocal training, and obviously a lot of cardio and working out because it's very physical, to sing that way and perform, particularly singing in that high register. So, I'm always doing that, whether we're on the road or not. It ramps up quite a bit as we get close to rehearsals. And then we get into rehearsals, and, that's the whole band and production. We usually, we get a sound stage and have our full production going, and we go in and we run the set, and we fine-tune it and knock all the rust off and get the set where it kind of flows, where it's got a nice, peaks and valleys, and that's, usually a couple-week process for us.
It's kind of fresh, and what I'm about to ask is kind of fresh in my memory because I just watched like all the old Cinderella videos, just a refresher over the past hour or so. So I'm seeing a lot of them were shot live, and so that makes me think, how much technologically, in a musical sense, in an amplification sense, the instrumentation and also mics and everything, like how different is it today performing live 2025 compared to 1986, 7, 8, 9, around that time? I know some like a Les Paul's a Les Paul ultimately, but what else? What really has evolved? Does it feel better, different? How would you compare a live experience today on stage compared to back then?
Honestly, it's not much different. I mean, I know a big difference for a lot of bands are in-ears, but I don't do in-ears. Our band doesn't do in-ears. I'm literally playing through the same guitar rig that I've played through since like the 80s. It's old Marshall 100-watt super leads, and I have a black panel Fender Bassman that I use for a delay cabinet. I use the same Ibanez effects unit. I'm still playing Gibsons and Fenders and Gretches. So, it's, kind of strap the guitar on and step up to a wireless 58 mic, which is what I've always used, Shure 58, and just rock and roll and scream. And so, we carry all of our own backline with this band. At the level we're touring at, which is like large theaters, and we do festivals and stuff like that. We don't carry the production like the lights and house sound. That's different. Than, way back we would carry, the sound system and the lights. We don't bring that. We bring a few supplemental things, but that's how most bands tour, on the theater level, where we're at, and even going into festivals like you mentioned, Rockfest or M3 or whatever, all the productions provided for those things. So we don't have that burden anymore, which is nice. That's expensive. Yeah. But we carry all of our own backline amps, guitars, all of that stuff, and it's old school. It's what it's no in-ears. It's just regular old monitors on the stage. We play. Another big difference with bands today is a lot of them are running tracks, and we don't do that. LA Guns doesn't do that either. They're very old school. Both bands are very much 100% live. Guns sound amazing. Phil still just sings his ass off. Tracy's just amazing on the guitar. Great songs. I've always loved their band, so it's been a good combination because people have liked the two bands together. We've toured quite a bit together over the last few years, and people seem to like the combination. It's two live rock and roll bands that just go out there and let it go.
Which is your favorite?
So, in answer to your question, a very long answer. It's not really that different, And the best part about it is, I'm just forever grateful that, that we still get to walk up on that stage and there's people come out and the rooms are packed and they're all singing the songs, and it's just it's like a pinch yourself moment almost every night. I'm so grateful to still be able to be doing it.
What's your favorite LA Guns song?
I love Ballad of Jane. I'd have to say that's probably my favorite. I just think that's just such a great melody, such a great lyric. It's just, if I had to pick a favorite, that would be it.
Cool. Okay, and then to the Cinderella discography, but what is the most, I'll go a little bit different here. What's the most underrated, and this could go in a bunch of directions, I know, but most underrated Cinderella song in the entire band's discography?
I don't know. I guess that's a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't. That's an interesting question. And what do you think is?
Oh,
let me put it back on you.
Yeah. Okay.
Because for me as the songwriter, it's just like there's things I love about all of them, and I've got criticisms of all of them as as the person who wrote them. So I kind of have a different perspective. So as a listener, what would you say?
Okay. And you just inspired me to ask another question, which I'll ask right after I answer yours. The stuff is fresh right now. The biggest hits are the fresh ones, but Shelter Me stood out particularly, and I had not watched the video since I remember seeing it on MTV all the time in the winter of 1991. All the time. So it was fresh coming back. But beyond that, the song itself, the horn section of it, the blues introduction, but especially when the saxophones really kicked in and I went, okay, if I throw this right up next to Honky Tonk Women, and I'm using obviously the really familiar song, but I can marry that really well together, and that does not sound of a piece of a lot of what was on MTV at the time, to be perfectly blunt. And yeah, there's a little nostalgia bias with that too, but I particularly like the arrangement of that. The sax I mentioned the sax parts, but the solo as well. The backing vocals, especially towards the end, they really start to shine a little more. So, given that there are bigger songs that still get played more because they may be charted higher, et cetera, I'd say at least of the familiar ones, "Shelter Me" is the one that's I think is most underrated.
Well, I would say that's probably one of my favorite songs that we ever did, and I do think that the band evolved. Some people view it as a change in music style. It's really not, because Night Songs was based in blues, lyrically and melodically. It was just a simpler production. And the songs remain the same, based in the blues lyric about life, challenges of life, ups and downs, falling in love, falling out of love. It's all real everyday stuff, starting with Night Songs, working this job ain't paying the bills, the opening line. It's all based in blues melodies and lyrics, and that's right up through Heartbreak Station. But the band grew. We grew and changed our production as we went, and we introduced different sounds and instrumentation. And I think that's what you're referring to on "Shelter Me." And I like how we gradually grew and just didn't make the same record every time sonically, but from a song standpoint, it's still all hard rock based in blues. And "Shelter Me," I don't know where it ranks in terms of, like you said, how often it gets played compared to other ones or whatever, but I can tell you live, it's the show closer for us every night because it's the one that goes down the biggest of all of them.
I can see why.
Like hands down.
Wow. Yeah, and I saw on the set list it's towards the end been previously, so that makes all the sense in the world.
If you can close the show with it, it's every night with the solo band, I think, since we started. I think it's one that over time has become a real favorite.
Probably.
I think it was probably our highest charting rock song in terms of top 40.
Yeah. Especially,
compared to like "Shake Me," obviously the ballads charted higher in top 40, but I think in terms of a rock song, I believe, and I may be wrong, but I think that was the highest charting in top 40.
And that would make sense. Okay, so you mentioned in terms of when you were trying to assess a song, there's a whole bunch of different angles you can take from. So we'll home in on the one that's going to be the most personal. That's songwriting. So from a songwriter perspective, maybe even out of the world of underrated, but what you think is like maybe the finest or the one you find you're most proud you wrote, or what it's one that doesn't get as much attention. Is there one of those that went, dang, that song, that album, and it could also be your solo material as well. So it open it wide up. But is there one you go, gosh, that one song that just nailed it with that, whether it gets attention or not, whatever. What's your assessment?
That's kind of that I can relate to, personally.
Yeah.
Most. Oh man, you got good questions. There's a few. From the solo stuff, from my last record, "Rise," "The Death of Me," that lyric, I think really, starting in the early 90s, starting with my vocal challenges and the industry changing and Cinderella eventually losing their record deal, and then just years of challenges after that. And I won't go into all of them. We all have our challenges and all, but "The Death of Me" is about overcoming, adversity and I actually wrote that with Savannah. She co-writes and co-produces, my wife, both the solo records that we did together. And she actually wrote most of that lyric, and she handed it to me, and I was like, man, this is like the story of my life right here. So, we finished it up together, and that was the first single off of the Rise record. And there's a video, I don't know if you've seen it, but it starts with me walking towards a TV, and the TV's kind of flashing all these years of challenges and stuff that I've overcome, and then obviously the hook line is "You won't be the death of me." So that one from the solo records, is one that I really personally relate to. It's been in the show ever since we released that record in 2019, and people really seem to take to the song well. So a lot of the songs that I've written over the years are kind of overcoming adversity. So like if you go to Still Climbing, the title track, a lot of times the verse is the dark times, and then the chorus kind of lights up to the positive. The Death of Me is very much that way. With Cinderella, Still Climbing was that way. Even Nobody's Fool, the verses are kind of like heartbreak, but then it's like the chorus turns into "fuck you, no one's going to do this to me again." So there's a lot of that theme, I think, in the writing, and so there's, I would say, currently, I'm gonna say The Death of Me is the one that I probably relate to the most.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. That's worth highlighting those for sure. Your guitar playing over the years, how do you feel like that's evolved at all, and if so, how?
I don't know. I play the way I've always played. It's interesting because people think when they hear a really heavy song, that the riff came first, whether it's Night Songs or The Death of Me or, Falling Apart at the Seams, and actually it's the other way around. Writing always comes lyrics and the melody kind of first in my head, and then that's kind of the script basically, and it tells you what should the music feel like. Is this a ballad? Does it need a piano, a softer touch, an acoustic guitar, or is this more of an angst-driven, angry song or fuck you song? So we're going to go to the electric guitar, and we're going to find, now that we have a lyric and a script as to what the subject matter is, we're going to find that riff, or we're going to find that right instrumentation. And I still approach it that way. So, Gypsy Road didn't start with that driving riff. It started with a lyric, and the lyric felt like being on the road. And I thought, well, now I need a riff that sounds like you're driving really fast in a car. So that's kind of how it's always worked. And then with solos, I rarely ever like plan out solos. I like to just kind of, once the track's built and it's time to lay down a solo, just have the producer, the engineer, kind of throw the solo section at me multiple times and just improvise and lay down 3 or 4 tracks, and then usually you end up kind of comping, this lick from that track, that one from that track, because I find you get such a lot more spontaneous kind of riffs than if you kind of sit down and plan something out or work it out. Very few of my guitar solos were kind of written or planned out ahead of time. It's just roll the tape, throw it at me, lay down a few tracks, and then you usually, with a couple of edits between that, they call it comping. Mm-hmm. You end up with a really cool, spontaneous guitar solo. And things happen that wouldn't happen if you tried to plan it. So I still very much record that way with solos. And then the big hook, heavy, like rhythm guitar hook riffs, like Gypsy Road or Falling Apart at the Seams, or the riff on Death of Me. They're kind of informed by the lyric.
Are you writing much more, planning any newer material, whether album, EP, just standalone songs, or just writing to write? Are you doing anything musically in the background at this point?
Well, writing's going on every day because I think most writers, if you're driving in your car or wherever you are, I have ideas that pass through my head every day, and the first question is like, wow, is that a song? That you get a phrase in your head or a thought or an emotion. So it's always going on, and I typically don't record a lot of things when, I kind of just wait to see what sticks with me. I've always been that way. I've been saying lately, as I'm getting older and my memory's not as good, if something crosses my thoughts and I think it's really great and I don't want to forget it, maybe I'll sing it into a voice memo or something as I'm driving down the road, or record a little, or jot down the lyric or title or something. But for the most part, I still try to go through the filtration process that I've always had, and that is the ideas that stick in your head the longest and that haunt you and won't go away. Those are the ones that you eventually turn into songs. Mm-hmm. So the writing process is kind of going on all the time, but there's that kind of searching for the ideas, seeing what sticks with you, and then when you have a lot of those, then it's like, wow, there's a lot of great ideas here for a record. Now it's time to sit down and kind of really finish the songs and get in and record them. So that's kind of how I've always done it.
Cool. Well, last question before I let you go. Is there any place, whether it's a venue, city, country, continent, where you'd like to perform and have yet to perform?
I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. Never been to Australia, and I hear it's really cool. So, I mean, I guess I could say Australia because we never went there with Cinderella. I haven't been there with my solo band yet, so that would be fun to go there. I hear great things. That's one place. I mean, we've played a lot of places. That's one that comes to mind that I haven't been to yet, so maybe there one day.
Okay. I'll keep my eyes out for that maybe at some point, and I've never been down there either. It's such a long plane trip. That's probably the most intimidating part right there.
It is a long plane trip.
Jeez. But maybe so. We'll look for it, and maybe, who knows, time it around the time the Summer Olympics go there. I don't know, go along with Team USA, hitch a ride with them in a few years and make your way down there. Well, you're going to be a way closer very soon, August 30th. Welcome back to Western Wisconsin, and enjoy the show at the Sonnentag. Tom Keifer, performing along with LA Guns. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for doing all the music you've done, and all the best on this upcoming tour.
Well, thank you very much, and we're looking forward to the show in Eau Claire at Sonnentag, and we are going to bring a big, loud, screaming rock and roll show with all your favorite Cinderella songs and some stuff from the new solo records, and it's going to be loud and in your face. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody, and I appreciate you having